Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. I'm your old pal Emac coming to you with NBA action for Tuesday, February 12th. We've got a 5-game slate starting at 7:30, and I am joined by one Adam Ship My Money Sharer as we give you your foundational look for this fun Tuesday slate. Adam, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Looking forward to a nice 5-gamer. We had a pretty big slate on Monday. Was I think the most exciting slate we'd had in a while, at least to like research and everything. So looking forward to a nice mid-range slate today.
And then we've got, I think it's like 11 or 12 on Wednesday, 3 on Thursday, and then we're in the All-Star break. We will have some content for the Rising Stars game, which is at 9 o'clock Friday. That's Eastern time. We, of course, will have projections and content for the All-Star game. That's 8 o'clock on Sunday night. And not to fear, for those of you getting a little bored, we've got the Daytona 500. That is this weekend. We've got 2 races on Thursday. We had the Clash this weekend. We've got the duels on Thursday, which there's DFS content for, and DFS gaming. And then, of course, who doesn't want to play the Daytona 500? We do have projections and ownership projections for NASCAR, so definitely check that out. If you have not yet signed up to Osmo, you can use the promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word, and get 50% off your first month of content. Now, you need to use that on a monthly package. It will not work on a weekly or an annual package, but it will at checkout when you put in early bird, one word, the last promo code field, it will give you 50% off your first month of a monthly subscription. All right, Adam, let's get into the games here real quick. We've got nobody is on a Monday to Tuesday back-to-back, which is good. We, of course, are recording this on Tuesday night. Everybody's in action except for that late game. We have 3 teams that are playing Tuesday and also on Wednesday. We have Memphis, who is home Tuesday, away on Wednesday. Same thing with Golden State. And then Boston reverses that. They will be away on Tuesday and home on Wednesday. With the injuries, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Orlando, and Utah, none of note. The Lakers will be without Josh Hart through the All-Star break. They're finally giving him some extended time off to see if that helps his knee tendonitis. Boston has already said that Kyrie Irving is ruled out to his sore knee. We know that Memphis is going to be without Kyle Anderson, and this is an important one here. Jonas Valanciunas was actually ruled healthy to play, but he's been working through some work visa issues now that he will be in the U.S. So they're hoping that paperwork is cleared up. Otherwise, he's all systems go with regards to the trade, the NBA contract, and the physical. For New Orleans, Elfrid Payton, game time decision with his ankle. He's been out for a long time. Jahlil Okafor, questionable with his ankle. We may know more about him when he goes through shoot-around. Payton, they said we'll have to see how he warms up. And then Andre Iguodala, questionable with a sore hamstring. Adam, that should hit all of the main ones. Let's get into point guard here. We've got some intriguing options on the slate. I will let you take it away.
Yeah, so sorry, I was just pulling up the position and it's not loading correct. Just 1 second.
No worries, because we've got Drew Holiday, Steph Curry, Ben Simmons, Mike Conley, little Ricky Rubio. We have quite a few choices here, and none of them are going to have us breaking the bank. So this should be an intriguing slate.
Yeah, I got it now. It just wasn't sorting by position, so I wasn't finding them. But Steph Curry at the top, in a tough matchup against Utah, a game that you would think has a pretty good chance at staying competitive. Not that you can really predict that anyway. We just saw the Suns hang in there against Golden State and then them almost lose to Miami at home. So Utah, obviously a good team coming in, but you have a nice price tag on Steph, only $9,000 on DraftKings. Obviously, he can outperform that pretty easily. You have Drew Holiday, whose production takes a hit with Anthony Davis back, but the price tag's falling a bit as well. Not an overly appealing matchup with Orlando, but again, only a 5-game slate. So he's, I think, a reasonable option. Ben Simmons at 7,800 is just too cheap of a price tag. I know Boston obviously is a good team defensively. I expect that Simmons loses some usage and production with Tobias Harris there, but I don't think it'll be enough of a loss to not want to roster him at 7,800. So out of those 3 guys, he's the one that really stands out is Simmons at 7,800.
All right. Down on the cheaper side here, we do have. Are we going to be chasing after DJ Augustine? Coming off a nice game. He's at 4,700. He's going against the Pels. He had a season high 10 assists in his last outing, 14 points, 3 boards, and a steal, checking in with 36 DraftKings points there against Atlanta. Prior to that, he had not topped 20 fantasy points in 3 games, and then he was coming off a 31 and a 27-pointer. The minutes have stayed relatively the same, Adam. He's playing between 25 and 27 minutes, depending who's dinged up with the other wings and guards, and there's not really a secondary ball handler there outside of some of their other wings. Are you intrigued by him at all, considering we just have 10 teams in the player pool today?
I mean, it's another good matchup against New Orleans. I don't think that you should expect him to replicate what he did against the Hawks. He did look really good in that game, just in terms of the way he was playing, the way he was moving. Everything looked really good. The price tag is still appealing. It's still a nice matchup. You just have to keep in mind that it's still DJ Augustine, and he's a good point per dollar play. It's unusual for him to put up the kind of game that he did against the Hawks, where he was actually someone that you really needed in your lineups for tournaments that day. But, again, there's not great value on this slate. And, when your options in that price range are basically like him, Marcus Smart, or someone on the Spurs taking on Memphis, it's not a whole lot to choose from.
All right, then let's head on to the 2-guard position. This should be a relatively shorter podcast. It's been a while since we've been under 6 or 7 games on the Tuesday and Thursday slate, but gearing up here is where we've got Steph Curry, you've got Holiday, Donovan Mitchell, Klay Thompson, the birthday boy, or coming off his birthday, DeMar DeRozan. Feels like this could be a spend position for us. Down for the cheapies, you've got DeLon Wright, who is with Memphis in a new team, new role. They don't have Shelvin Mack anymore. And then you've got a very discounted Marco Bellinelli at 3,900. Start off at the tippy top here, Adam. What is popping thus far?
It would help if I could get the shooting guard position to load now. There we go. All right. Third time's the charm, I guess. DeMar DeRozan at 7,300, not a good matchup against Memphis, and we've seen him struggling more often than not lately. But that's kind of getting to a rock bottom price point for a guy that is as talented as DeRozan is and still plays 34 to 36 minutes a night. I think that's pretty hard to ignore. An up-tempo game for Donovan Mitchell going against Golden State is nice. I don't really like the price tag, though. It's tough to justify a $1,000 price difference between Donovan Mitchell and DeMar DeRozan. Kind of regardless of matchup there. And then Jimmy Butler at, 6,800, tough spot against Boston. I think Tobias Harris probably hurts Butler the most out of Butler, Simmons, and Embiid. So I don't really love the price for him. I think that DeRozan's really the one that stands out.
All right. And then Terry Rozier is at a nice even, or an odd, I should say. I know apparently you and Josh have a whole who's on first with even and odd numbers. I don't fully understand that, but that's what you guys get to see when Josh and Adam are on the DFS strategy show. Reminder, they're on the show Monday, Wednesday, and Friday starting at 9:15 in the morning. Tuesday and Thursday, you get Laffy, and then Saturdays at 11:15, you get Adam and I. And on those shows, we go through the entire slate game by game at a leisurely pace, breaking everything down. On the podcast here, since this is just our first look and we know so much changes overnight and of course naturally up to lock, we just go by position here just to give you an idea on where to put your player pool. But Terry Rozier coming in at 6,900 on DraftKings. We know he has done pretty well in most of the games that he has started. Now the last one he only had 24 fantasy points. That was against Cleveland in Cleveland. When he drew the start when Irving was out. But prior to that, he was coming off 45 fantasy points in a start, 38, 48, 19. Not so great there. 29, 39. He's priced to hit 35 to 40 fantasy points. Do you think that that's something we can put into our range of reasonable outcomes on Tuesday?
Yeah, I think so, especially on this slate. I mean, you only have the 5 games, and most of them aren't appealing from a fantasy matchup. I mean, you have like Atlanta and the Lakers obviously is a very appealing fantasy game. It's a nice spot for Orlando going at New Orleans. It's a nice spot for Boston going at Philadelphia. Other than that, it's really not a really appealing slate. So I'm more willing to pay a close to $7,000 price tag for Rozier than I would be on most, 8 or 9 game slates where there are several fast-paced games to choose from. He's, I think, most likely to land in that like 33 to 35 fantasy point range. And I don't think he's the highest ceiling player, but with the lack of other options and the fact that it is a pace-up spot against Philadelphia, I think that Rozier is a pretty strong play.
All right. Amongst those guys up at the top, they seem relatively reasonable. A lot of this is going to go to lineup construction, but some early placeholder value, perhaps we can consider Marcus Smart. There's definitely going to be people for him to guard. You've got Justin Holiday. His price is coming up to 4,800, but he's just playing a ton of minutes. DeAndre Bembry, do we want to roll the dice? He's checking in at 3,600 going against the Lakers, and he has seen his minutes tick up a little bit to the almost 19 that we need to get from him. Anybody down here in the scrap heap?
Bembry against the Lakers at 3,600, I think, is fine. If he's going to get low to mid 20s in minutes, again, there's just not that much really cheap value here. So I don't mind that. Reggie Bullock at 3,400 against Atlanta. He drew the start last game. I think that while he clearly is like the 5th option on offense, he should get, some open looks, and we know LeBron will find his guys. So I think that Bullock is a pretty appealing option too.
The funny one is the Spurs and Memphis. Now they have the lowest over-under on the slate, 2 of the slower playing teams in the league, but everything's relative. They're at a 209 over-under. If this game was in 2014, these two teams would probably have a 192 over-under in this matchup. So, how things have changed, and players, of course, have moved on. Not so much grit and grind that we're used to seeing. Now, at small forward, we have 2 guys up at the very top here, Adam. We have LeBron James cresting into that 5-figure price point. He is at 10,500. We know he's basically having to carry the Lakers. Atlanta has been feisty as hell through 3+ quarters in a lot of their games, or shall we say more often than not, than just ultimately succumbing at the end of the third or into the fourth quarter there. What do you think about LeBron or Kevin Durant, who has that matchup against Utah, which is, while they're not quite as good as defensively as they were early on in the season, they're still a tough matchup?
I love LeBron here, especially if we're going to get him starting at point guard now. I don't know if that lineup from last game will carry over or not, but I would expect that if it does, that you see LeBron be very productive more often than not, just having the ball in his hands more. And then you get this phenomenal matchup in a very fast-paced game against Atlanta, a terrible Atlanta defense. Over the last month, they've actually overtaken the Cavaliers for the worst defensive rating in the NBA, which is saying a lot because for most of the season, the Cavs have had like a significant lead on the second to worst team. So just a really good spot for LeBron. Normally, he's not someone that I really love getting to in DFS when Kuzma and Ingram and everyone, or almost everyone are healthy, because he will defer so much. But I think that the price tag's low enough and the matchup's good enough that I love LeBron here, whereas Durant, still just so many mouths to feed on Golden State between him, Clay, Curry, Cousins, Dre, and a pace down spot against Utah. We saw against Miami that Durant still in competitive games down the stretch will look to take games over, but it's just so few and far between now that you're really getting these explosions out of Durant. I think that LeBron is pretty far and away my number 1 expensive option here at the position.
All right, as I continue to look to see if there's anybody else coming out, the mid-tier, so with regards to Kenrich Williams and some of the other guys for the Pelicans, a lot's going to depend on who's in, who's out, who's dinged up, and what we know. If Eton Moore ends up sitting at all or suffering any sort of setback, that boosts some of these guys or keeps them where they are, like him and Darius Miller. If Elfrid Payton does not play, that's helpful for these guys. If Jahlil Okafor is out, that's going to be helpful for these guys. But at this point, that's kind of a wait and see approach. I think that I think we're going to have to take with them. So as we scroll down here through the pricing sheet, the only guys that sort of start to get interesting to me would be an Evan Fournier at 5,200, just because he is steadily seeing a ton of minutes, and then Terrence Ross in what should be a bit of a pace-up game there for Orlando at 5,400. And we know he's kind of a gunner. Well, not kind of. He's very much a gunner, but he has just been really really getting the attempts. Pulling up his sheet now. He's gotten double figures. He's gotten at least 12 attempts in his last 15 games. So that's pretty solid. On a slate like this, you want to pay for the minutes. You want to pay for the opportunity. Feels like he'll get the opportunity. What the hell he's going to do with it, I don't know, because he's about a 40% shooter. But those are the only guys I'm seeing here kind of on the cheap side, Adam. Is there anybody else that glitters for you?
No, I mean, I'm with you on. I hate Fournier so much, but he's just cheap enough and in a good spot against New Orleans that I think that's fine. Terrence Ross, kind of the same thing, except I don't hate him. I actually really like Terrence Ross, but you should get like 28 to 30 minutes from him, and it's kind of like a poor man's Lou Williams at this point. Like he just goes out there and chucks. He has like a 26% usage rate over the last month. He's been shooting better than normal, which I think probably contributes to the fact that he has a 26% usage rate and he's just taking every shot that he can. But it's a good matchup against the Pels. So either of those guys are fine. Also, I don't know if you want to include Gordon at small forward or power forward, but coming off of an atrocious game against Atlanta the other day, he's still very reasonably priced at 6,400 in a good spot against the Pelicans. So all three of those Orlando guys I think are appealing.
All right, let's use that as the pivot over to power forward. That gets us Anthony Davis for the New Orleans Pelicans. He is 10,300, Adam. His last two games, he has played 34 and 25 minutes. That was on a back-to-back. The first game back, that was at home against Minnesota. He dropped 32 points with 9 boards, 3 blocks in 25 minutes. Then the next night went on the road to Memphis, put up a 14 and 16 with 2 steals and 2 blocks. Both games ended with 51 fantasy points in his favor. At 10,300, if we think he's going to get 50 fantasy points, that feels like a decent raw projection on with 10 teams in the player pool. What is his upside going to be, however?
Yeah, I mean, it was good to see the 34 minutes out of him, and we know that he can average around 1.6 fantasy points per minute. So if you just take that as an average, it gives you around 55. He obviously has games where he averages, higher than that. So I think at 10-3, he has upside. The problem is just that LeBron is basically the same price facing Atlanta. So where I think it'll get interesting is if we're projecting similar ownership between LeBron and Davis, I would take Davis, or I would take LeBron. But if you get into some situation where, LeBron's projected for 30% and Davis is projected for like 10% or something like that, then I think you're probably better off going to Davis.
All right, and that seems like a reasonable strategy or approach. In the mid-tier here, we've got LaMarcus Aldridge going in another tough matchup. Had to go against Utah this weekend, going against Memphis, but he is 7,700, so that's a reasonable price tag for his services. You've got Julius Randle at 7,400, and then John Collins going against the Lakers at 7,600. These guys all kind of come with question marks. What is LaMarcus Aldridge's upside in that matchup? That's a tough one. We feel that he's going to get 40 fantasy points, but he may not get more than 43. You've got John Collins. The big question there is, what are his minutes going to be? Is he going to get 27 or is he going to get 33? That's a big difference. That moves the needle a lot when you get all those extra possessions, rebound opportunities, etc. And then, now my turn to muck up the filters here. My third option was Randall. So what's Randall doing with his minutes? Because he was out for a while. You do have Anthony Davis in the mix. You should potentially see the return of Jahlil Okafor, and you've got everybody else relatively healthy. Now Mirotic is out of town, but we've seen 31, 24, and 30 minutes in the last 3 games after he missed a half a dozen with his own ankle injury. I don't know how you parse these guys out, Adam. What is your initial take?
Yeah, it's why mass multi-entry is really fun and takes away a lot of the headaches. But no, I mean, John Collins is my favorite here. He's more often than not, I think you're going to see him get at least 30 to 32 minutes, and in this spot at a sub 8K price tag, that's more than enough for him. If he gets more, then great. Julius Randle would come in second for me. Again, an appealing price tag. But with Davis back, the minutes are a little bit of a concern. It's not nearly as good of a matchup against Orlando as it is for Collins against the Lakers either. So I'd give the edge to Collins there.
All right. Looking at some of our cheapies here, we of course have a lot of guys that have changed teams. Mike Muscala is one of them. He is now with the Lakers. Had half a season here with Philadelphia to start that one out, but then he's off with the Lakers. Now, let's not forget he did spend 5 years in Atlanta, so he should be familiar with the shooting environment there. We've also got Amari Spellman at a very discounted price point, $3,400. This is where we're starting to roll the dice a little bit, Adam. And then you've got Darius Miller back to 3,700. That's reasonable. We know he's scoring dependent, but if Okafor is still out and if Elfrid doesn't return, he's really only contending with Eton Moore as a recent addition back into the rotation. Amongst these cheapies, is there anybody we can spruce up?
So not entirely cheap, but Jonathan Isaac obviously playing really well right now. I still don't totally buy into his recent numbers, but the price tag's low enough in this spot against New Orleans where I think he does still have upside. Looking a little bit cheaper, you have obviously like Muscala in a really appealing game against Atlanta. The problem is just, where do his minutes come from? So I don't know that it's quite small enough a slate for me to really, want to go that low to someone that, probably projects to play around 16 minutes.
All right, let's get on over to the pivot position and we'll get on out of here. But in the meantime, a couple promotions here. One, we have a chance for you to win a full year of Awesemo premium content, the whole kit and caboodle. We are celebrating our 1-year anniversary here at Awesemo.com. That date is February 15th, but of course that is over All-Star Weekend, so we want to give everybody a chance to get into a drawing before that. So all you've got to do, similar to our holiday promotion, is like and leave a comment on any of our YouTube shows. We are gathering up all of those comments, and then we are putting them into the old virtual raffle bowl and pulling out one lucky name on February 13th, and that person will win a full year of Awesemo premium content. You can comment on any of our YouTube videos that have happened from February 8th through the 13th. Wink, wink, nod, nod. You can kind of comment on the ones and like the ones that you haven't watched. Just saying, if I wanted more chances into the barrel, I would do that. And then we also have one more opportunity to win. If you go to the pinned tweet at Awesemo_COM over there on Twitter, follow the instructions of that, and you can get another entry into this drawing. So to help you guys off and help me out, we need to get a new Fred VanVleet fan club, because Fred VanVleet is going to be out for the next 3 weeks, Adam. So how can I continue playing him if he's not even playing? So we need a new player. So I need to get recommendations. So leave those on this YouTube Early Bird podcast page, and I will go through them, and we'll pick the best, or maybe we'll get enough to do a Twitter poll. I've been Boban has been brought up, Adam, DeLon Wright, Iman Shumpert. Who was my boy again? Oh, Nick Batum. There's a variety. So come up with your best names. If there's a common theme, or if there's a bunch of them, we'll put up together a Twitter poll. But I want to keep doing that contest because, Adam, we reached critical mass. I posted that, didn't even tweet it out, and it filled 7 hours early. I had 24 people overnight. Can you believe
the way I see it? You only have two real choices, and if the people want to be nice, you get Jeremy Lin. If the people don't want to be nice, you get Patrick McCaw.
Oh my God! No. Adam, you don't need to stare them. Don't stare them wrong. Don't stare them wrong. I thought about Jeremy Lin. He would be in the mix as well. Tonight I played Norman Powell because I wanted to take the person who wasn't starting, because previously when Fred has been ruled out before lock. Now, I've had him ruled out after their game's locked and took to 0, so that nothing new there. But he was ruled out well before lock. So I've taken in the past DeLon Wright or Danny Green, but since Danny Green was starting, I'm like, well, shoot, I better take Norman Powell because VanVleet wasn't going to start. So we'll have to see how he does on Monday.
So now you would get now using that logic, it would be Jeremy Lin.
It'd be Jeremy Lin, right? Which of course I would be fine with, but people may want to penalize me, so we'll have to see what happens.
Jordan Lloyd also.
Yeah, how are the people? All right, looking here to centers, Adam, as we finish up our morning here, now that everybody's laughing and thinking of devious ways to mess with me. We've got at the top one Joel Embiid, who I think he's going to be especially now that he's got a full starting five of phenomenal players with him. He's going to be a load there for Boston. You've got Nikolai Vucevic going against the Pels. He's been phenomenal lately. And then you've got DeMarcus Cousins at the significant discount. He's down to 6,200. Now, tough matchup for him against Gobert in the paint there, but 6,200, all of a sudden he's in the conversation. I'd lean, of course, towards Embiid or Vooch at the top, but is that nearly 40% discount enough for you to bring DeMarcus Cousins into the conversation?
I do like the Cousins price tags come down a bit. It's still just that he's playing, mid 20s in minutes. So there's still only so much that he can do. But the price tag's certainly more appealing now than it was before. Embiid at the top, I love. I mean, this guy should just never be even close to $10,000. Saying that he should be a lot higher than 10,000. He's averaged over 1.6 fantasy points per minute over the last month. Tobias Harris being there should not have a negative impact on Embiid. Embiid's still going to get his. Harris isn't going to stop that. All it does is space the floor more. It takes it takes more double teams away from Embiid because you can't double team Embiid as easily when you have two shooters on the floor now with Harris and JJ Redick. So I think you just see Embiid continue to just post monster numbers. Obviously not the easiest matchup against Boston, but I really just don't care with him. Vooch for a little bit less in a nice spot against New Orleans. Again, I prefer Embiid. It's kind of like the LeBron to Anthony Davis situation. I prefer Embiid, but if you're going to get something crazy like 40% Embiid, the 10% Vooch or something like that. Vooch probably beats Embiid like no less than 1 out of every 3 times.
Okay, so that's relatively close on that one. We've got Draymond Green. It's a mess between him and DeMarcus, and then going up against Gobert. Would you consider Gobert? I guess is a way to flip this around. He's at 8,200. I'd almost like to scratch together the 1,300 to get up to Vooch.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to get the Vooch, but 8,200 on Gobert is pretty much always a good price tag. It's not a spot that really scares me either. So, I think he's fine. And even Al Horford at 6,300, this is a game where I think you could see a couple of additional minutes for Horford in a competitive game that matters for Eastern Conference seeding. We've seen on some of these, nationally televised or premier games, Horford playing 34 to 38 minutes, and then in other games taking it easy and playing 28 to 30. I would expect that we see a few extra minutes from Al Horford in the spot.
All right, let's wrap it up. Did somebody say Boban, Adam? Oh wait, I just did. 14 minutes average. He played 14 and a half and 13 and a half in his 2 games thus far with Philadelphia. You dive into the rotations and check things out. Is he, the way he's entering the games and when he's playing, do you think that that's somewhat sustainable, that we can, I don't know that count on is the appropriate word, but that 10 to 14 minutes should be in the outcomes? Because he's 3,300 right now on DraftKings.
Yeah, I thought last game was the real test of that because he played, the first game he played was against Denver, and he played all the backup center minutes behind Embiid, but that's obviously a team that plays 48 minutes of center between Jokic and Plumlee. The next game was against the Lakers, and I was really interested to see if we got Boban playing the backup minutes or if Jonah Bolden got backup center minutes in a fast-paced spot against the Lakers. But it was still Boban, so it seems like he's the backup center now, and that's normally, I mean, he might be the only backup center in the league who, like him and Kyle O'Quinn, like, getting 14 to, if they're going to get 14 to 16 minutes and be like $3,000 or $3,300, they do become viable punt plays, especially if you're playing a lot of lineups, because, there's going to be games where he plays 14 minutes and scores 25 fantasy points.
All right. This is going to be a fun one, Adam. We're winding it down. We've got 5 on Tuesday, a dozen on Wednesday, and then just a couple on Thursday before we head on into the break. Again, we are going to continue doing the Early Bird podcast because we're going to talk a little bit of hockey. We're bringing on Jake Hari to cover some hockey analysis for those of us that are going to dive in on Saturday, me included. I usually play about 35 or 40 days out of the hockey season. So this is my prime time. So I'll be playing the role of you, the listener, that's kind of converting over to playing some NHL. Now, we will see larger prize pools than normal, and they will be a little softer than normal because there will be a lot of people that are bored that are jumping into this. Now, the key thing here at Osmo is we've got the hockey projections. We've got the rankings from Alex Baker, Osmo himself. He ranks the positions, the goalies, and then he ranks it by line. So that's very helpful. We'll talk about all that, how to use it, how you can use Fantasy Cruncher, how you can play around in the quarter and dollar contests and just have some fun, play around in the smaller leagues, and just watch for other people to make mistakes. So it is a fun way to keep your toe in the DFS game when we don't have much basketball. All right, with that, we're going to get on out of here. You can follow Adam at ShipMyMoneyDFS. I am at EMACDFS. It is Osmo_COM over on the Twitter machine. With that, gamers, good luck.